Hey, y'all. Hope y'all are having a great day or a great night, depending on where y'all are in the world. So, this little horse is a Clarence horse that's been in for a little bit. I had her pulling a rope that I have. It just helps with pulling on the saddle and gets her used to being calmer and something dragging behind her. But you do want control of them, yielding the hindquarters, being able to back them up like right here. Getting them to change directions and all that stuff. And you even want that before. I know I got a feed sack on her here, but you also want that control before you put a feed sack on them, or anything for that matter that moves and makes a noise. And before you even put the saddle on them, it's a great idea to have this control of them in some way. You notice I had to get a little rough with her and say, hey, you need to stop. She has go on her mind at the moment. She's not really particularly a athletic horse who really likes to go, but when she kind of gets in her mind, oh, I'm not real sure of this, sometimes you have to kind of step in and say, hey, you know what, I'm talking to you. So that's what's going on. That's what's going on with the backing up. There was a whole lot better. I didn't have to get rough with her to get her to stop and back up. And here I've got the bridle on her. I'm going to ask her to flex. Now I'm going to ask her to yield her hindquarters. So this is getting her ready for moving off my legs whenever I start riding. And just to let y'all know, this horse has been ridden before, so this is not a colt that's just being started. She's just in to get a little better handle on her and a little better, I guess more dependable. I guess when I say more dependable is she's going for a little kiddo. When I say a little kiddo, I think she's about 10 or 11 to ride, and so just a little more work to get her to the point where she needs to be. She's not real athletic, which is actually a good thing, and is more on the lazy side, which is also a good thing too. So, what I'm doing here with yield the hindquarters, if a horse will yield their hindquarters, you can make them quit, bucking or rearing up or taking off. And when I say yield the hindquarters, they have to be having that front end steel. There, she's moving the front end around a little bit. So, oh wait, she's actually. I'm trying to get her to go forward. Sorry, I miscalculated where I was in the video. So, anyways, I'm wanting her to move forward, but she was kind of freaking out about the bag a little bit right there. So she was like, not so sure. That's why she was kind of running sideways. So I just follow her, keep her head tipped toward me, and just wait until she just calms down and relaxes a little bit. So this is the same thing I'll be doing under saddle. Ask her to move that hind end over. Notice that she's really stepping up underneath herself, which I really want, is because that's a real good thing. It'll make it easier for getting her to step underneath herself whenever I get on her too. So here I've got a rope around her butt. You'll be able to see here in the video, she's not real happy with this. I have already done this before, and her first response when I did it is she kind of took off and was like, oh, I'm going to run from this. And, of course, that didn't work. So here you can tell she's still not real happy with it at all. So I'll just wait until she calms down. I'm just pulling on it. This is great for those of you that are wondering why I do this, or what's the purpose for it, or that's mean to the horse. This right here helps a whole bunch. If you're leading another horse, or you get a wire stuck up around the horse, like a rope around their butt or something, it will either help you to, one, have the horse not react whenever you get something up around their behind when you're riding, and avoid a wreck. Or if it's more of a reactive horse and they still may have a tendency to maybe react if they did get in a situation, because you're working on getting control of them on the ground, and then of course later on work on getting control of her while riding her, and then of course just using this to help desensitize her, you'll have a higher chance of being able to get them to, or get them under control in order to avoid a wreck with a horse that may be more sensitive and might actually react even after doing this, but you have a better shot at getting them to calm down and avoiding a wreck. And then of course your calmer horses, you have a better chance of them maybe not even reacting at all if something were to happen. So either way, it's a good thing to do, or I like to do, because it helps out. It helps out a lot. And the rope I'm using, just to let y'all know, it is cotton. You want to use cotton or something soft, because if you're not careful, you can rub their butt raw, and that's not a good thing at all. So you want to make sure you use like a cotton rope, or something that's sturdy, but it's soft. You want to use something soft. If you're using a nylon, like the lead rope that I have in my hand that's attached to a halter, would not be a good thing to use. It's something that could really rub one raw if you weren't careful, if you tried to tie that around their butt or something. So here I'm putting the bridle back on. I took the bridle off when I was doing the rope because it has the reins attached to it, and I didn't want to go through taking the reins off the bridle and whatnot. I do have another bridle that I usually put on that doesn't have reins attached to it, but I didn't want to take the time to put that one on or whatever while I was doing the rope around her behind. So anyways, so I'm just putting this on, and I'm actually going to get on her in just a moment. She's not a real athletic horse, which is, for what she's going for, is a good thing. She's actually not a super she really doesn't like to do a whole lot, which is kind of hard to tell in the video, probably because she's kind of all over the place, and with the rope she was like, I don't want this. But other than that, she's pretty laid back, and she's actually kind of on the lazy side. So get on, just kind of fixing her bridle a little bit and petting on her. I love to pet on the horses as much as I can. It helps them out. So I'm going to ask her, before I take off, I'm going to go ahead and ask her to yield her hindquarters, just like we were doing on the ground. So here she's kind of stopped. She's like, I don't exactly know what you want, so I have to kind of push with my foot. There she goes. Perfect. Love how she kept her front feet still and moved her hind end over. So this is the first time I've ridden her, but this is not the first time she's been ridden. So I'm gonna yield her hindquarters over. Very nice, very nice. Love how she softened up there at the end of that. Rubbing on her there and moving her back over. So I make sure I've got pretty good control like this before I take off, before I ask her to move out forward. And this is with a horse like her that's already been rode in the past, or I do this even with a horse that's never been rode before in their life. So here I'm doing the same thing I did on the ground. I'm getting her to move around in a circle and bend around my leg, just like I was having her bend around the stirrup when I was on the ground. Very nice. This helps that if she were to kind of panic a little bit and be not so sure, I could pull her head around a little bit more and I've already worked on getting the hind end over, so I can get the hind end over like right here. I can get her hind end to move over. Good. Now I can, here I'm waiting for her to give her face a little bit better. There we go. So now I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to make sure she'll yield her hind end over, and then I'm going to take off in a circle the other direction. So this is a really good exercise because it gets them used to kind of seeing you up above them, which when I say that, she's already seen me up above her because I jump all over them bareback. I don't make them do anything, but I do jump all over bareback before I put a saddle on them. It helps teach them to stand still, and if they do something, then I can just kind of chase them around and teach them to stand still without having to lug around a saddle or something else that's heavy. And I've worked her off another horse, which has gotten me up above her as well. So that's, she's had that done before, someone riding her. And so but it's still good for her, and it's also good for the young colts as well. I'm going to yield her hindquarters over. So I'm going to ask her around. Very nice. Now here I'm pushing her out around the pen a little bit more. And if you notice, when I'm pushing her out around the pen, a lot of people might be thinking that I'm steering her, but I'm really not steering her with the reins. I've got the inside rein, so if something happens, very nice lope. If something happens, I can quickly get her head around and yield that hindquarters over. To stop her in the beginning, I do this with the colts too. To stop them, I'll bring them back down into a small circle in order to get them to stop. But in order to get them outside of that little bitty circle that I've made, is I just focus my body and my energy and my eyes. So here, going into a small circle and then moving over. But sorry, I went off track. So my body, my energy is saying, let's go this way. So I'm looking up and looking where I'm going. So I'm not reaching down and picking up and saying, hey, you're going to go this way. No, I am using my energy, my body, I'm using body language in order to push her out of that small circle. And you might say, well, what if you have a horse that just, because there's some horses that just anticipate and make that circle real small, and it's, you try to get them going, and you pretty much turn them loose, and they keep that little bitty circle. What I do is I just kind of ignore that. I just kind of take my hand on their neck and kind of give them a push to try to push that head out sometimes if they're being real bad about trying to stay inside that little bitty circle. But for the most part, is they realize they're kind of loose a little bit, and then they start pushing out, and then they start realizing that you're giving them a direction. And it's just like when you're on them, is you're giving them when you're on the ground, is you're giving them a direction. You're getting them used to following your direction and your body language, and then it just goes over here when you're riding them. There I popped her on the butt. She kind of twitched her tail and thought about crow hopping a little bit because she's like, I don't want to go. But the working on the ground helps give them a direction and them to learn how to follow the direction of your body language, which helps you when you're here. Is you go from the small circle and then you use your body language, not your reins. If you notice, all I have is the one rein on the inside. That's the only rein I'm using, so I can get them to come down into a small circle again and yield that hindquarters if something happens, or I'm ready to stop. I'm ready to stop and go the other way. So I'm not using that outside rein to get them to the outside of the pen like that. I'm using my body language and looking where I'm going, and they're learning how to follow that. So that even makes your horses that are, ride extremely well to listen to you a lot better if you say, hey, you know what, I have a direction I want to go this way. So if you look up and where you're going, you still keeping your eyes to know what their ears are doing, so you become aware of what the whole horse is doing. It's like, driving a vehicle is, how fast you're going, but you're not looking down at your speed your speed thing and being like, oh shoot, I'm going too fast, and stop paying attention to the road. You're still paying attention to the road, but you can still see how fast you're going at the same time. It's the same thing as keeping their ears and their ears where you can see them, but you're still looking up and where you're wanting to go. You're not looking down. Plus, when you look down at their ears all the time and you're not looking where you're going, there's a lot of people. Yeah, I fell off the top of my horse's head. Well, let's see. If you're looking down at your horse's head, what happens is as you're looking down and then you start to fall, all your body weight follows your eyes. So all your body weight's going to follow your eyes, and you're going to go tumbling off the front of your horse because your body weight is following where your eyes are pointed, where you're focused. So here, I'm wanting her to turn. There, she did a little turn on her haunches. So here I'm starting to work on, even though this is my first time on her, she's doing pretty good. So I'm starting to work on getting her to turn like she should. So there, she didn't really use her back end very well here either. So I'm going to just turn, push her out, turn, push her out. So you're for your spins, like it's forward motion, and so that's kind of what we're working on, but it doesn't really look like it at the moment because we're just kind of turning all over the place. There. So there she took a step across and she pivoted on that back foot, which was really, really nice. So getting the front end to move around, that is something that I do teach them on the ground before I ever teach them under saddle, because it's a whole lot easier to teach them on the ground than it is under saddle. There's still a learning curve, as you can see here. So I'm teaching her to go ahead and turn where and how I tell her to turn. But I'm just kind of all over the place. Like, oh, we're going to turn this way. Okay, now we're going to go out straight. Oh, we're going to turn this way. So that actually helps her to kind of start using her back end, because she's anticipating pushing off and going out forward. So here I was trying to get her to move that front end around, so I'm going to just ask her forward. So you can't expect a big old, spin or a horse to really pivot that well in the beginning if they don't know how. But you have to break it down into baby steps. You ask a little bit of them until they get that pretty good, and then you just improve and kind of excel from there. Kind of like God does with us, is He improves and excels. He'll oh, very nice turn. But and when I say very nice, it was just a little bit there. But with God, He asks just a little bit of us, and it might be, being, it may be go to tell somebody hi, and that's it. Just tell them hi and give them a hug, or do something like that. He may not tell you to tell him anything, but he puts us through baby steps as well. He said, he tells us asks us to do little things, and then he just improves on what we're learning or what we have learned. So I'm really wanting her to go ahead and use her hind end a little bit more. If you notice, instead of really bringing her shoulders through, a lot of times she just bends that head like all the way around, like there. So bending her, trying to get her, bending the head around a little bit, but really she's overbent. So I really want that shoulder to come through. So that's why I just go ahead and get the forward motion, and because I really don't want that head bent so much. So push her forward. Very nice. gonna pop her a little bit. Notice that she's real bent, and part of it I've taught her, and part of it she just kind of likes to be bent, because I've rode her, since this video I've rode her some more, and we've really had to work on turning, because sometimes she'll get into her head, oh, I don't want, no, here she's not, but sometimes she gets into her head, oh, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to blah blah blah, or I don't want to turn, so she'll really overbend her face, and then just kind of take her shoulders wherever she wants to go. So, really, and she is getting, because I've ridden her several times since this video, so she's really getting a lot better about bringing that shoulders through, instead of just bending that face all the way around. And part of it's I've taught her to bend to bend around me, but now I'm having to help her have the idea that she also needs to bring that. There, like right there, she brought her shoulders through. I turned her. So I was going all over the place trying to get it, and what I did there is I actually went and I used the fence to help turn her and get that shoulders through, because she couldn't just take off because she had that fence right there. So there she turned, and the last minute she pushed out on her back end. So here I'm gonna ask her to turn. I really kicked a little bit, because I was just trying to get her to push out forward a little bit. I'm not looking for speed, but I am looking for her to go ahead and bring that shoulders through. Nice-os. So I'm going to use the fence again. I had to push her forward. So like I said, I've taught her to spin on the ground, but there still is a learning curve under saddle. Oh, very nice. She used her butt there pretty good. So that's just the beginning. You notice I turned her and then just walked off. So I don't sit there and drill on it like, oh, let's get another step and another. No. Just one step is all you need. That's the foundation, that's the beginning. And she'll start taking that step, because he'll be like, wow, she'll leave me alone if I take that step in a certain way. So I'm turning her into the fence again. Oh, love that turn. She actually used the correct hind leg to plant too, which is awesome. So there I asked her to turn the other way, and she's not really using her butt, but that's fine. So here I'm just having her turn one way and the other. Very good. So you notice that throughout it, I'm reaching down and I'm rubbing on her. That really helps reinforce it. Even if you're, round pinning a horse and you get them to facing you and you're having trouble getting them to come to you, sometimes you can just walk up to them and rub them on the face, rub them down the neck, scratch them a little bit, and then walk away, and they'll follow you. And that's another thing with with the round pinning. That's a little bit better. Push her out. But it does, the reason I mention that is because it does a lot of times help here as well. Is reaching down and rubbing them a little bit and scratching on them some. There wasn't too bad. She really didn't use her butt a whole lot, but she still kind of did push off. So I still take that some, because it's like, well, she's trying a little bit, even though it wasn't great. So here, I'm trotting a circle, trying to get her to kind of use her butt a little bit more. Very nice. There she wasn't using her pushing off on her back end. She was there. Very nice. Very, very nice. So very nice. So you notice I'm rubbing on her. That does help quite a bit. So here I'm trying to get a little more out of her until she's not always appreciating it. If I was her and someone was telling me to work and I really haven't had to work, I probably wouldn't appreciate it either. Especially if I was lazy. Those of you that know me know that I'm not lazy at all, but she is. So I kind of get it. So what I'm wanting to do here is get her to pick up her front feet and really kind of sit back on that back end and go ahead and move. Move back. So I'm going to walk her up here again. Nice little turn. So there I might have, I was wanting a little more turn there, like right there, instead of just one step. She's not real happy with me pulling on the rein. I'm using the other rein a little bit, not a whole bunch, but a little bit to try to keep her a little straighter. There. Rub on her a little bit. Ask her to push forward. There. Just to let y'all know, I do not have spurs on. The first few rides on the horses, I generally don't. And the reason I say I generally don't, there's every once in a while, because again, it depends on the horse. Well, every once in a while I'll come across a horse I will put spurs on. And it's usually a horse that's been rode quite a bit and is just kind of like, I don't really want to do what you want to do. But you still got to be careful with the spurs as well, especially in the beginning when you're trying to teach them stuff, because it's so easy to tear their sides up if you're not careful. Because you're like, hey, you need to do this or that. Oh, so here I put this little clip right in the middle of the riding, because there is more riding to come, just to show you what I was talking about, getting the front end. So here's a little bit of side passing one way. I forgot to say, the side passing is something I also do my best to do with the horses before I ride them, because it also helps your spins a little bit, because it's pushing the whole horse over. And then it also, there's the spin. So that's what I was talking about, teaching them on the ground in order to spin. But it just helps the horse overall. And when you start teaching them to side pass and whatnot on the ground, under saddle, it makes it so much easier when you've done it on the ground. And like I said, that's the spinning. That's why I put it in the middle, is so you can see what I'm trying to get out of her here. And that she already knows it from the ground, but there is still a learning curve when you come along with the riding. So I'm asking her to go ahead. Oh yeah, I was talking about the spurs. Yeah, so most horses I do not wear spurs with in the beginning, because like I said, it's so easy to tear their sides up if you're not careful, especially trying to teach them something. There we go. So actually now she's doing really good with backing. I'll have to get another video, because she's actually, you can be loping and just ask her to stop, and she'll sit down and back. I mean, when I say sit down, she'll put on the brakes and go ahead and back up and everything. But Here she's like, what are you doing to me, and why do I have to do that? You notice that she's shaking her head. She's not and she wasn't shaking her head before. She's not a happy camper. So really what I do is I just ignore it. I just go ahead and teach them to do all the stuff they need to do. And the reason I say I ignore it is because there's no need in fighting them or yanking on their face to try to get them to not fling their head like that or whatever. Just ignore it, keep working, and it usually just disappears. So that's a good thing. So and it has a lot of that has just plain old disappear with more riding. But with the backing here, that's part of the reason too that she's chunking her head around is I'm wanting to back her up, and she's like, I don't like this. Get rid of this thing. I don't want to back up. And like you've seen in the beginning of this video, she does know how to back up on the ground. And I've even used the halter on the ground and pushed back on her and taught her to back up that way. I didn't put that in the video, but she also knows that. But there's still, like I said, when you ride them, there's still a learning curve in order to get that. And she's probably, because she's been ridden before, she's a lot of times what happens with a horse like that is they've been pulled on and someone trying to stop them or back them up or whatever, and they just learn to just ignore it. That's part of life. That's what humans do. They just pull on you all the time. And you know what? I don't have to listen to it. And then when someone actually says, hey, you know what? You really do have to listen to it. Then sometimes this head flinging like she's doing, chunking her face around happens because it's like, I don't like it. I don't like what you're doing to me. Would you please just stop it? So, a lot better back up. A lot better. She's got her back end up under her and up underneath her a little bit better. She's picking up her front feet a little bit better. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not necessarily looking for her to back all the way around the round pen, because sometimes that will happen, but that's not necessarily what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is for her to stop, push her butt up underneath her a little bit, pick those front feet up like she's doing there, and give me a little bit of headset, and just get real soft in my hands and pick up that back to get a good back. And that also helps get a good stop. So I'm not looking for her to back a mile. What I'm looking for her is to back until she softens and picks up those feet and softens in my hands with the bit. And when she softens in my hands with the bit, that usually means that she's not just softening there, she's also picking her back up. She's raising her back up, which also helps with the back muscles. So you have a horse that has kind of weak back muscles, or a horse that's maybe a little bit older horse that maybe could use a little bit of muscles in her back. So backing them up helps a lot. I think like some of the chiropractors and stuff, they'll say, you can take your hand and put under them and push their belly up, and it helps round their back up and helps with the muscles there. But backing up also helps with the muscles and teaching them how to round their back up. Like here, she's picking up her feet. She's got her back rounded. So that helps build the muscles in their back as well, and actually helps them carry you better. So she's still not happy with her face. Like I said, I've ridden her some more since this video, and she's gotten way better. But as you can see here, she is not happy with me telling her what to do. Very nice. There she went ahead, picked her feet up, got her back end up under her, raised her back up underneath me, and gave a headset. So part of what's happening here is not only she dragging, it's not that her face is stiff really when I'm trying to get her to back up. It's not that I'm pulling back on her and it's her face that's stiff. It's her entire body that's stiff. So once I get that entire body where it's picked up and it softens up, then what happens is that the face a lot of times goes ahead and softens. Now I've had some horses that will get themselves kind of rounded up and whatever, and that face is still like way out there. It's like, hey bud, that face I need a little control of the face too. And Oh, very nice, very nice. She's picking up her... Perfect. I love that back up. She was picking up her front feet, got her back end up underneath her, her back rounded under her, and given to the bridle as well. But what happens is a horse might give their face when you're backing up, but and soften their face, but their front feet are dragging out in front of them, and they're not sitting back, and their back is hollow, and you're getting them to back up, but it's not pretty at all. And they might have their face, tucked in, but that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for them to back up soft with that face. So sometimes you'll get them everything good and soft, and you'll have to go and work with a horse and get, you got them rounded up with their butt underneath and their front feet picked up and all that stuff, but their face is still kind of out. They haven't really set their face. So sometimes you have to just back up until you get a little bit of set with the face, and then just go on, do something else, and come back and stop and back up and get a little bit of set with the face, and then it just, back enough that you get a little bit of set, and then walk them forward. And it also makes it easier to walk them forward and get a little bit of a set with their face as well. But that's usually a lot of times not the case. Once you get them picking up their front feet and their back end under them and their back picked up underneath you, their face usually comes along with it. So you usually don't have to worry about getting their face to soften up, because once everything else softens, usually their face just comes right along with it. So here I'm wanting her to turn. I gotta push her out, because when you're teaching them to turn around or to spin, it's a forward motion, so you want them to step out and around. So you notice I pushed her forward, pushed her forward, pushed her forward, ask her to turn, push her forward. I kind of gave her a pop on the butt to try to push her forward a little bit. And that's, so, like, really kicking, I would imagine most of you have seen a horse kick another horse, and they really wallop each other. So, when I'm kicking like that, she's a horse that probably weighs, probably about 900 pounds, and I weigh about 145, 150. I haven't weighed myself lately. I kind of bounce between the two, but she is way heavier than I am, so me kicking on her sides does not hurt her at all. And like I told y'all, I do not have spurs on, because the first few rides on a horse, I do not wear spurs, because I want to train and get some control of them before I do it, so they know what I'm asking of them, so I'm not waylaying them accidentally with a spur or whatever, trying to get them to do something that they do not know how to do. So I'm gonna ask her to come on this way. Very nice. What a nice little spin. A whole lot better. Got a foot planted, that shoulder coming through. Now she's starting to get the idea of it. She's still kind of chunking her head a little bit, because she's like, I don't like this. How dare you do this to me? This isn't very nice of you. I haven't had to work like this before, so I'd like you to leave me alone. Very nice. Getting better with her back. And she's kind of throwing a hissy with her face, like, how dare you make me do this? I don't like it. Stop. Back up. So part of the reason I keep stopping and backing up is I'm wanting her to go ahead and, back up properly, but I'm also kind of getting the headset a little bit right now. Not a whole bunch, but I do want her to soften up and kind of round up and not be shoving down on my hands and dragging that front end around. So that just helps a lot. So here, just rub on her. So something I like to do with the horses after I ride them like this in the round pen, you'll see here, I'll walk off one way, then I'll walk off the other way. It just helps the horse follow